Hi seniors, it's day 6 for Unit 1. We're looking at production possibilities curves. Big question, how can I measure what I gain and lose when I make a choice? The standards that we've been working with so far and that we will be assessed on Friday. Key terms for today, we'll define these as we learn about production possibilities curves. As a definition, a PPC or a PPF, same thing, are a graph of an economy that shows all the combinations of two goods that can be produced with the current factors of production. So here is why we needed to study factors of production. Because when we talk about PPCs, we need to know about all of our resources. We need to know about our resources and that they are limited, that scarcity exists. Both of these are PPCs. The only difference being that you have a straight line versus a curved line. And we'll talk more about that later, but basically a PPC shows a comparison of two different goods that an economy produces and all of the possibilities, the production possibilities that exist. And so you can make 4 fish and 0 coconuts, or you can produce 8 coconuts and 0 fish, or some combination thereof. But the nice thing about PPCs are that they show us scarcity, trade-offs, efficiency, opportunity costs, and growth. And we're going to go through and identify each of those now. So a common way to think about PPCs are with guns or butter, basically two different things that an economy could produce. Guns referring to things like education or services that a government provides versus, butter would be the education or social services. Guns would be like defense and military. So is the government going to spend money on defense, or are they going to spend money on education? So here's a hypothetical, given some different possibilities, and we can graph these possibilities. And if we graph each of these, if we produce 10 guns, we don't produce any butter, so we're going to have a point up at the top. And you can plot all of these different points all the way down to the bottom. And this shows us scarcity, because we can only produce on the curve or inside the curve. Right? These points are possible. And we can do this because resources are limited. We don't have the resources to go beyond the curve. And so this point out here is unattainable. We don't have the resources, because they're limited, to make point I. So these are all of the possible points of production. That's why it's called a production possibilities curve. So it shows scarcity, and be able to explain that. This PPC shows scarcity because it shows the quantity, the things that we can produce, given our limited resources. We cannot produce I because our resources are limited. PPC also shows trade-offs. If we produce more butter, we have to give up guns. If we produce more guns, we have to give up butter. We make more of one, we give up some of the other. And so all of these points are possibilities, except I. I is not a possibility. And so if we choose to produce B, we cannot produce A, C, D, E, F, or H. All of them are trade-offs. Think back to your snow day. You had 5 possibilities. You chose 1. All of your other ones are your trade-offs. And so all of these are possibilities. We choose C. All of the other ones are trade-offs. A PPC also shows efficiency. And efficiency, this is a new key term, it's when we use all of our resources to produce the maximum amount of goods or services. We're using everything. There's nothing left over. And we use all of our resources when we are on the curve. And so these green points are all efficient points. Anything that is inside the curve, it's possible, but it's an inefficient use of resources. We call that underutilization. We're not utilizing our resources as much as we could. So we could produce H, 2 guns and 6 butter, but we could also produce point C, 6 guns and 6 butter. That's using all of our resources. So the goal of an economy is to produce on the curve or as close to it as possible. We don't want to be inside the curve. And remember, those points outside of the curve are not yet possible. So anything out here is impossible. Growth is our next one. PPCs shift to the right as a result of more jobs, new resources, basically more factors of production. And that can look one of 2 ways, where the resources help you produce more butter and guns, or it could be a bias change in which the resources help you produce more butter but not more guns. Not every resource allows you to produce more of everything. Sometimes resources are better suited for one thing than another. And lastly, opportunity cost, the specific number of guns or butter lost to make more of the other one. So similar to the trade-offs, but if we say we go from point A to point B, we are giving up 2 guns. A to B, our cost, what we sacrifice, are 2 guns. The benefit is 3 butter, but our cost is what we're talking about with opportunity cost. So identify the opportunity cost for each of these, pause the video, and then we'll take a look at them together. All right, I've had a chance to calculate opportunity costs. So from B to C, we give up 2 guns, D to F, 4 guns, and then E to D, we reverse it, and we're going to give up 3 butter, and C to A, we give up 6 butter. So we can calculate the opportunity costs on a table, but we can also do it on a graph. So here's an example, moving from B to C, we give up 2 guns. From D to F, we give up 4 guns. To move from E to D, we give up 3 butter. And from C to A, we give up 6 butter. So what we give up is our opportunity cost. The last thing we did in class today was do an activity in which we produced either squares or triangles using our resources that we had on hand. We completed this table and identified the various combinations, the production possibilities for squares and triangles. And we noticed here that we have a constant opportunity cost. And so therefore we're going to have a straight line because these squares and triangles, these factors of production, could be used to produce squares or triangles equally. And then we plotted those points. And the last thing to do would be to look at this PPC and identify how does it show scarcity. We can only produce these points or somewhere inside the curve. We don't have the resources to produce outside the curve, so scarcity exists. Trade-offs, we can only produce one of these points. All of the others are options that are foregone, and so they're trade-offs. Opportunity costs, if we have 0 squares, we make 10 triangles, but if we want to make one square, we have to give up 2 triangles. That's our cost. Efficiency is any point here on the curve. Homework is a quiz on Schoology. Let me know of any questions. Good luck.